Tesco.
She went Tesco for me.
We will have scarily full bottles of water first.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I was looking a
Reminds
bit
me
dry.
of
I
God.
can't lie.
Oh my god. Shit, episode 36. What do we want to introduce it as? If you go around the room, do I expect? Or like, what is it, 164?
This is 164.
164,
This is
yeah.
like almost all of 164.
How many of that are you?
Almost
Like,
all of us, yeah.
Solid.
That's a good question, you know. So,
yeah, shout out who's not here.
Solomon's not
People
here.
know.
Jonah's not here.
Jay's not
Who?
Jordan.
Oh, yeah, Jay's not here. I'm
Dan.
forgetting.
Dan.
Dan's
Dan.
not
Dan.
here.
With his new career.
With his new career. last minute. But that was basically everyone else.
That's pretty much it.
And then you guys as well.
Yeah.
And
The
then
important
yeah,
members, the cool
yeah.
members.
The ones you're present.
remember.
Turn up.
Yeah, exactly.
No one's actually care.
Do you want to break down what like 164 is?
Let the
That's
founder
a
break it
good question. Basically, when would you have even been?
down.
Like,
Probably like 2017.
yeah, something like that. So I've basically been producing for like a year, maybe a year and a half, and then me and Remy have been friends for ages. Like, obviously, as you know,
Yeah.
back from skate park days. Like,
Redlands days.
yeah, exactly. But we like both started getting into music. So I got into producing, and then obviously, like, because me and Remy would hang out a lot, like we ended up just kind of
Yeah, just
both getting into music as well. And then
Sick.
I started making beats on like software called Machine. So it's like native instruments.
Is that what you started?
Yeah.
I didn't know.
And then because I used to use like the beat, like MIDI beat pads and stuff like that.
Oh.
So yeah, it was kind of like that like beat making, you know, like sampling and shit. So and then I transitioned to FL Studio, and then that's when me and Remy started. Yeah, me and Remy started like linking up,
Yeah.
making tunes together and shit. And then yeah, Remy started his journey with music, like production as well. And then yeah, I think as time went on with that, kind of in the early stages, like because we were skating together a lot, we had like a lot of music in common. So it's like us and then Tim's cousin Joe Salter. Yeah. So we always used to chill together a lot, and then
Yeah, because I like knew Drew especially. I'd known Remy for ages because of Joe,
Yeah.
and then I knew Drew through him, but we never really met.
yeah.
So we kind of knew who each other were, and then we
Yeah.
met in college properly. And that's kind of when I started to become a part of 164.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
kind of like from that point onwards, like obviously me and Remy were making music, and then like there was a small group of us, obviously including Jonah as well back then, who obviously is not here now, but yeah, so it was like us lot, we were just kind of like pissing about, just making tunes and shit, and
That's
like
the best way.
just literally just having fun with it basically, and then we all just kind of thought like, yeah, like why didn't we just turn this into like a little thing, because like we're all doing our own thing, but it'd be cool to have like, because we were all like, we all came up like with Odd Future and shit like that, like that's like our generation's like big like point of change for like creativity and shit. So
That's like the
I feel like
reference.
it's like looking back and like look into that, like we were like kind of aspiring to be like that. So everyone kind of has their own thing. That's not good. Silent word. But yeah, like yeah, sorry.
You want to check that?
But yeah, so that was kind of like our driving force to like be in that kind of level. So
like 164, that's like reference to the phone number,
so
right?
to the phone number. So
now the O's.
I can't even remember what, because there was a few different names that I'd come up with, like, because I always do that where I'll just be like thinking of the most random shit, and like it might have no correlation to anything, but I was just thinking like, oh, why don't I just think of something simple that just like encapsulates everyone. Literally just
Is everyone in it from Northampton? Or is
still, we haven't.
We've all just migrated to
London.
London.
Literally. Fully, like, we kind of just like migrated, I guess, because obviously all of us are in London now. So, but yeah, so I mean, I'll let you say.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, I think what
that
keeps us like together as 164 is like we would just get along. So like, it's not that we're not open to like outsiders who aren't from Northampton.
Right,
It's just like we've all kind of like grown up around each other and stuff.
Yeah.
And kind of got used to one another.
Like we all work with our separate people as
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
and
yeah.
it's all like individuals. Are just it's kind of like the umbrella term, really.
Yeah, literally.
That's how I see it.
And then like kind of following on from that, so like that started becoming a thing, just like us like early on just making random shit like music, and then even just like stupid shit like we just like smoke, go get fried and just like record ourselves like talking shit for
164
hours.
just stemmed from just
Yeah,
being
just
high.
chewing
Every year.
But
So bad.
and then
Or some
eventually
stupid shit.
yeah, literally some stupid shit. But then when I went into college, I'd met Tim and Solomon properly for the first time, and then that must have been like 2017, I think.
2018.
And then after that, like then I'd met you and I mean basically everyone else.
Because like me and Matt, we used to play football together when we were like what 13, 14,
like 13, 14,
and then just by chance we were in the same form on induction day at NSB.
Yeah.
Because I went to NSB.
Yeah.
Obviously, I went with you to NSB, and then we were in the same form on induction day, and he'd like. You know, like he'd switch up his hair as different and shit. You were wearing like fucking leather jeans and shit. They were like some like blazer.
That's when
you
Cobain was born.
Yeah. That's Jake said it because
been
like when I think back to that day and then like being at NSB and shit, and then like as we were leaving, it was jokes because talking to them. No, it wasn't even as we were leaving. It was like the first day we got there, and everyone was shocked that I actually got in.
No.
Because just turning up like, because when it was induction day, I finished school, because I went to school in Wellingborough, innit? I finished school, and then like basically 2 weeks later it was the induction day, and then I didn't have any uniform in it because they were saying about blazers and all this fucking bullshit. I was like, fuck that. Oh, I was just poshness. I was just going in for like 2 hours and then fucking off in it. But then, so I just had to pull together what I had because nothing fit still. So I just put on like just some like black jeans or whatever it was, like this bomber jacket, some like black tie, and just turned up, and then like everyone was just like they didn't think I was getting in.
Looking like one looking like one engineer.
He's not getting in it. But yeah.
So then that's like then when me and Drew like linked up and Solly linked up in college, because I did foundation art and design in college after sixth form, and then you know these guys met Matt and Jordan like through
Jordan
that
as well.
and then that's when the group started to like really form, get bigger, and like we were all doing our own things. Like I wasn't even doing music before I met these guys.
So I think it would be good to like kind of plot our kind of trajectories on like a timeline, because obviously you asked like how did it start and stuff.
So we've got the past.
So we've got. I think it would just be cool to like talk
future.
about all the stages we've been through, because I feel like even like you as an artist, we've all gone through like loads of different phases and shit. So yeah, even leading on from like what you were saying, like we met in college and shit, but I think like even bridging that, it was like so me, Raimi, Jonah, like all of them lot, and then these guys all had their like own group together of just like friendship and stuff, and then we did, and then like there was like little links and stuff. So like me and Tim meeting in college and stuff, I think that because Tim knew of me and I knew of Tim, but like we'd never spoke. That kind of came together.
Yeah, I feel like everyone in the group has like their own stories of like how they met and shit.
Like
and then there's the group.
It's like a little
well.
tree, like a little family tree kind of
bro.
thing. Yeah, and then I was even gonna say with these two, and then talking about Great Minds, like how that came about.
Because like me and Raymond, I forgot what I was doing, but I used to work in the Crown and Cushion pub, and then I think I was there for work drinks. Like we were, like I was just, it was just like a work night, and we were starting in the Crown because we'd all get free drinks. And then I went there and I turned up early, and like no one that I knew was there. And then I saw Raimi, and you were with a couple of people. I forgot you were.
I don't remember.
I don't. Yeah. No, I remember. I remember this clearly. Edit. And then we spoke, and like we had this conversation about like let's just make a group chat, because it feels like there's a lot of creatives in Northampton. There's not really. I couldn't really see a scene. Like,
Yeah,
this was like the
no
time when
structure.
Slow Tie was starting to
Yeah.
make a name for himself, and obviously he was becoming like
Yeah.
what everyone saw Northampton as, just not from there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we were like, oh brother, we're all here as well, and it's like it'd be cool
Yeah,
to link
so
up. And obviously I was a photographer at that point, and one of the main reasons I started this, because it was like a Snapchat group chat. Shows his old
Yeah.
And then I was a photographer, and I think I had a couple shoot ideas, and I remember doing like a massive shoot in a car park where there was like bare people. We had Niall Walker as well, runs Shush, the SHH, the streetwear.
Yeah.
You know, makes his own clothes, sick, and he was like styling some of it, and there was loads of us there, and that was like a big link up. This is time.
I wasn't even there at that point.
Yeah, you weren't even there. Yeah, and then but yeah, that group chat started like it obviously like just faded out over time, but I feel like a few people met each other from that group chat. Like, I remember Eli was in it.
Yeah, exactly. And then even them, like they've created their own like.
With the cooperative. and all that stuff.
Which is sick to see, because I feel like there's like a scene in Northampton now.
Yeah.
I think I'm not gonna lie, but from what I've kind of experienced, it feels like everyone kind of felt that whole thing where it's like there's a shit ton of creatives, but there's nothing tying anyone together, which I think was the issue for like the longest time. It'd always be like the odd person went off and did something on their own, or went and found their people somewhere else. But now I think it's sort of all coming together a bit more now, because I think there's more people at a level now where it's sort of you can get excited behind what they're doing, and they're excited for what you're doing.
There's a lot. There's just like, even when we went to the Oculate thing, that like Anti, Eli, and Vince Law and Remy World did. Like, that was sick, because that, I don't know, there was just passion. Do you know what I mean? It was like passion and loads of people, and that's even when we spoke and said we're gonna do this. Do you know what I mean? So it's like there's something that everything like funnels through, which I feel like Northampton didn't have.
The earlier acts as well.
Like
before them.
We were there, but like obviously, because we all come from London, we just like as soon as you go in, I've not seen you in like 2 years or some shit, so I just ended up speaking to people all the time.
The first lot of acts, they were all from Wellingborough, and we knew one of the guys, Nev, who we knew because he works at the studio a fair bit, but like although I had no idea about that side of the scene, and they were just like, it was kind of mad to see, because they were just fucking loved it. Like it's like one of those ones where you're like, it's a different thing to what like TK and that lot were doing, but like I was still like, holy shit, it's like they brought there was a kid on fucking crutches in like their mosh pits like that.
That's so funny.
I think that's the thing with like small town stuff as well. It's like everyone's just figuring out that you can just do your own thing and actually just exist.
Exactly.
You don't have to be in like a big place to do what you gotta do. It's just like,
I think it's that weird thing though, because everyone's like, Northampton's a small town, but it's like one of the biggest.
But it's massive.
It was like
it should be a city.
It would like overtake like Bear being like, I think it's like something mad like top 5 biggest or something if it was a city, which is like ridiculous.
That's the thing that's mad though, because I think what we did and what I think by having like stuff like that group chat enabled all of us to do was like properly just like kind of be leaders of our own like our own like scene kind of thing, because it kind of gave everyone a platform to be like, okay, cool, we're all equal, no one's like on top of it. It's like cool, someone's made the chat, but it doesn't mean they're like in charge of it. Do you know what I mean? It's like, this is just a space for everyone now.
It's like being master of your own destiny.
Yeah, exactly. And even with that chat, I think like, because there must have been like 50 odd people in that chat, like quite easily, because someone would be in
random people.
Yeah, someone would be in
people just add their friends. Like someone would add their girlfriend.
But then it ended up being quite a lot of people, and then I think even the blessing of that was like, oh cool, like there's just, I'm just aware now. Like for some people, like there was bare people in the chat that might not have even said anything, but if they checked it, they'd been like, okay, like these people actually exist as well.
It's kind of mad when like, because I feel like there's a lot of people who don't have like a group chat with everyone who they know. Like at the studio, we have like a wall of Polaroids of like people who are coming through and doing stuff. And we added it up the other day. There's like 130 on there.
That's
it's like, but if you were to sit down and just be like, how many people do I know really who are doing stuff? You'd be like, 6.
That's cool about what you do though, because it's like you're documenting all of this stuff. I don't know, 5-10 years ago, look back at it and maybe Northampton would have like, these artists would have blown up. Maybe, like, you know what I'm saying? Anything can happen. It'd be
or
like,
even like the
this
trajectory since like when I started music photography, like 2019,
Yeah.
when I did like the first shoot for like Tragic with Cameron messaged me being like, I saw you did some photos at the skate park. I got like 20 quid for it, and I ended up losing 60 because I was shooting on film. So look at those photos, and then you look back, and that's like what, 2-3 years ago or something now, and it's like now they're like on Marshall and shit, like doing bits and like
crazy.
Just like every time
I didn't even know that either.
Bro,
that's crazy.
Mental. They're on like their live agency and stuff, and they're like proper going for it, and like people were like, and it's like. I met them. They were like, oh, it's like, they literally when I met them, it was like the first week they started the band. It was like crazy. Yeah. So I was like, sick. I'll do the shoot, and they'll probably never hear from you again. You know what I mean? Now I'm like, fuck. They like run the little punk scene in Northampton.
That's the thing.
That's very cool.
That's what I like about Northampton as well. Like growing up there, like people actually do show love if it's like if you're open, if everyone's quite open in there. I think the perception is that everyone's not, because it's a town and like it's easy to just think, oh, I'm doing my thing and I'm like the only one that's doing it. But when you think about it, anywhere you go, there's gonna be someone doing someone that's
do you know what I think it is though? Like when you were kids, you go on YouTube and you watch like some sick music video or something, or like a live video of a gig, and then there'd be people in the comments like, oh, this doesn't exist where I am. Or like, I wish this existed where I was. You know, everyone felt that to the point where everyone was like, fuck it, we'll just make it ourselves.
That's the thing, because
I mean that kind of thing like is what drove me away from Northampton in the first place. So coming to London, searching, you know, not searching for something, but like wanting to get and like mingle in all these, like choose what kind of scenes I'd like, you know, be involved in and stuff like that. And then obviously since I've left, like it's sort of built up now. It's like it's sick to see. Like going back, it's like very different.
My biggest shock value, like since I started like doing like a couple gigs in London and stuff, is like I quickly realised, because it's like a fucking massive place. Like you can see a band or like shoot a band that has like so many followers, and then you go to like down the road to the next venue, you'd be like, they must know about that band, right? And they just don't. As in Northampton, it's like everyone, like you can go to like an anti-gig and they'll know about Tragic and stuff like that. And, like people are like aware of stuff.
Yeah,
and
that's
it's,
so
like,
true.
So it's like cross genre a little bit.
100. Because even when like we went back, it was weird seeing how many people were like, oh yo, like I love your music, and I was like, what the fuck? Like, I just forgot people like that's the thing with London as well, because you can get lost in it. Like when you don't really have a name, it's like you're gonna go out. It's not that people need to recognise you necessarily, but it's even just like seeing familiar faces. Just what are you saying? Like,
but that depends what type of person you are, or what you're doing at the time.
That's true. That's true.
Because it's like in Northampton, I feel like everything you do gets tracked.
That's the difference. That's the thing. That's the thing you can easily forget when you're not in Northampton. Definitely, because it's like it is a bubble. So I think it's just like the scene that's building there now is like healthy. It's like a healthy representation.
Healthy
of like,
bubble.
It's like
definitely. I think that's it.
But like, what's it like here, like 164 and stuff? Like,
I think. Well, I'll speak for myself, but I'm just going to
who's joining the show? It's a mystery guest, bro.
Mystery guest.
Don't need that.
Sorry, do you mind repeating the question?
I was just wondering like what it's like out here, because I've not experienced much of anything here. You know what I mean? Like tiny bits. Like it was only like a couple months ago when I shot the first gig out here and stuff. But now I'm realising I'm going to be back and forth a little bit. So I'm like, I want to know. Is it worth it, boys? Is what I'm saying.
I feel like, for me personally, I feel like it's worth everyone just kind of giving their perspective. But for me personally, it's been kind of mad in so many good ways and bad ways. But also now that I'm in a good place of like, I kind of feel like I know what I'm doing. I feel like I know what I want. It's good, but it's like when we first moved here, it was in lockdown and it was like for uni. So we all moved as like a group of friends moving to London. So it was like you moved to Wiki, like we moved here together. Jordan was already here. Friend, and then it was like, we're moving to London. And then we got here and I was just like, this is fucking depressing. But it's not because it was London. It's just kind of like moving away from somewhere that was very comfortable and then being somewhere like unknown, but then and then also not being able to go out and shit either.
Exactly.
I feel like
London in my room all day and shit like fucking.
I feel like London amplifies everything. So if you're, I don't know, if like in lockdown when everything's just at a standstill because you're in the capital, like it's all amplifying. It's like, fuck, this is like a ghost town.
You're fucked.
Literally, fuck. But then when things are going well, it's like, oh shit, like there's so much more of a buzz than you get in somewhere like Northampton. But I think London's really what you make it. That's what I found.
Yeah,
like I've been here it's my 3rd year being here, and it's really what you make it. I think like it's intimidating and stuff, but yes, I feel like now I've built more of a life here as well. I feel like we can all say that.
Some would say it was scary, but it's quite exciting.
Yeah.
But I feel like it goes for everywhere though, doesn't it? Unless you're in like a village in the middle of it's like you're kind of stuck, bro.
Yeah, like it's crazy.
Certain places you go might be a bit weird. Like hot fudge.
Hot fudge.
Never know what kind of village course going on.
It's like it's weird being in London at the same time because it's like, as Tim's saying, and it's like when it's low, you know what I mean? Then when it's high, it's high. But at the same time, it's like when you think about Northampton and then being in that bubble, it's like I feel like you have more of that family vibe, you know what I mean? So like people rally around each other a lot more than you would do here in London, you know what I mean? Because like I feel like just with big city, everything moving quickly, you know what I mean? Like you don't really get the same love unless you're like popping like constantly, you know what I mean?
I think it's because there's so many people. It's like you go into London, you can meet someone, and even if you're like vibing with them, it's like I'm never gonna see you again.
It's crazy as well because like it's so easy to compare yourself to people in London because there's so many people that do, especially in music. Like there's so many people doing what you're doing, and like it's just it can get like you don't know if when you speak to someone they might be being nice. Do they have an agenda? Like all this stuff. Like what scene they're part of. All this stuff. Like
what do they want?
Yeah, what do they want? Like you know. It's just crazy.
It's like getting lower. So that's the one thing with this, it just sinks.
But yeah, no, even to add to what you were saying as well, it's like me and I think we was talking about this the other day, but it's like that family vibe that is lost by moving here is like we did lose that. I feel like a lot. I feel like all of us experienced that loss when we moved here, but I think slowly as time's gone on, especially this year, I felt we've kind of slowly come back together as a group
definitely.
of people and like a not even just a collective, but just like a force to like. Because the thing is, especially with London, like these guys were saying as well, it's like you can feel like you can get like imposter syndrome, like everyone else is doing what I'm doing better or worse. Like it's easy to do that, but I think because when we did our gig in, when was it? April. That showed me so much. Like that meant a lot to me, and I feel like
I think that was the turning point when we all started to realise, oh shit, like we are doing what we're doing. It's just like day to day, it can feel like.
I feel we all going a bit fucking insane. So it's good. Like it's good having a gig, and then you just kind of feel a bit of freedom and just being like, actually, there are people listening.
It's like a weight.
It's not.
I'm not just like another kind of person doing this, like certain things. Like,
and realise that people are taking you for like, they're taking it at face value.
Yeah,
like they're receiving the art you're giving. You know what I'm saying? They're not like, you know, just chasing after like an image that you're presenting or something. It was like genuine. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because I think that gig especially, like, we started off with Rami, then me, then you, then Tim, and I think even the order of the sets, it was like Rami played like his new EP that he'd released, which was like quite emotional to him, and then I played songs that these lot have heard like 50,000 times, but I'd never played to anyone else.
Like they're like UK classics in my
and then Matt played like fucking like a whole mixtape of that song. And then Tim just played the album, and I was just like, fuck, like we're in our own like echo chamber of music. Like we all hear each other's music and we're like, oh yo, bro, this is fucking hard. Like your shit's very hard, your shit's very hard. But it's like no one else knows that. And then the fact that people all came to see that without really like thinking twice about it, because there was some people that showed up there and I was like, what the fuck, like,
bro, there was a guy that showed up that I was meant to be DJing, and bear in mind, like, I don't even DJ, like I DJ but I don't I'm like never like put myself out as a DJ, and this guy was like asking me to like DJ for him. I was like, yeah, cool. I ended up not going because like, you know, I was doing other stuff. And then the guy, one of the other DJs that I'd met there, that was only a week before, ended up just coming to the show. Like, and it was just like, oh, okay, I've only known you a week, you don't know anything about it. And then in the crowd, like, he was asking about Exit Wounds, the song. He was like, yo, what song is this? And like, you know, mid of your set, I'm like trying to type it in on Spotify. You know what I'm saying?
I think that's the mad thing with, like, even what you guys were saying about like people turning up and it was just, it was weird because I think especially with 164 now, it's like it doesn't really have like a joint identity in a sense, because we're all just kind of just doing really different things. Even at the set, that was probably the most
so diverse.
So diverse, so random as well.
I love that.
So I just think that shows a lot when you don't really have kind of like a thing that you can put a label on, and then people just show up because they're just like
because I feel people always want to attach a label to something. It's always the case. Like,
and then it gets
what
too
is this?
Samey, and then it dies because you're just trying to do the same things again, which I think is something that maybe like Northampton had an issue with for a while, and I think especially like post Slow Tide, there was a little period where it was like, is everyone just gonna try? Just try and like do the same thing. But I think now like Ocular, when I saw that, and it's like you had Vince doing his thing, Remy, that was the first time he'd done like his like more pop indie, like just fully committed to it rather than doing one song, and then like
and shout out Carey on guitar.
And even that's funny because like the guy who's playing guitar, I've known for like years.
He's from MK,
and he's from MK, and I used to skate with him loads, and then I made 2 of my first ever tunes with him. Like he produced like 2 of my first ever tracks, and then he just showed up there, and he messaged me a few days before like, yo, by the way, I'm playing guitar for this guy in Northampton. I didn't think anything of it, and then I went there and I was like, oh yeah, of course, like this is the gig we're going to. And I was like, what the fuck, like even that is just like Northampton, MK, so that's a small world still.
There's definitely like a crossover with MK and stuff. Like, it's like the band, like even with like the band scene and stuff, it's always like
bands and skate scene.
And MK tend to cross over a fair amount. And the skate thing, because it was like you'd always go Radlands, then once a month people would be like, let's get straight to MK.
He's gonna go buzzy, like when we're like 15, 16, that would be like, oh yeah, we get the bus at like 8 in the morning, like, get it that early, make the most of it.
You're so sick as well, you get it, you're like,
this is fucking shit, and I've slept for like 3 hours. Fully.
So just get there and realise you spent all your money on the train. You're like, I can't eat, I can't drink anything.
Have a bag of what's his food.
One what's it an hour.
Right, but yeah, that's like, I think for all of us, I think that's helped us, like, or it's helped me at times definitely, where it's been like, oh, I'm struggling, or I'm like not where I want to be at, but I also feel like supported by the fact that we have this like, we have like our own community basically, which I think is like, I think that's important for a lot of people to like know and like be open to this like community as well. Like it's very, it's so important.
What it's all about.
Because some people like try and make it look like, oh, you have to do this on your own, like you have to brave it through the industry on your own, like be your own boss kind of thing. But it's but when you get to the end of that journey, what's waiting for you? Like, you don't have people to like come up with and like share your love with.
People are too focused on the end goal. They just forget about the journey's like the whole point.
I think the thing as well, like that whole thing of just like going find people who are already in there and then like doing what they say. It's kind of like at this point it's like it's good because obviously they've done it, they know, but at the same time like you've got the internet, you know what I mean? It's so easy to like just do it yourself, make something, put it out. Like obviously it's way more work. Like if you, but at the same time it's like you have that much better like community factor as well. And if you have other people doing it to keep you actually like motivated, it's like way easier.
100%.
So I feel like it's also just a kind of thing of like, we all do completely different things. Like my main genres are completely different to his main genres. It's all different. Like it's good to have like, you know, when I don't know, it's easy to kind of look at other people and be like, oh, you're doing this, but because it's in your own community, it's like, oh, okay, it's cool that you're doing that. Also, I'm proud that you're doing that, and like I'm glad you're doing that. And you don't want to like, it doesn't make you ever feel like you want to one up someone or like move above someone. It's just kind of like, okay, cool. Like let me draw inspiration from them and shit. Like, I think that's also a sick thing that I think we've got as well.
Yeah, I think as well, it's like when it comes to like that sort of more underground or like indie music stuff like that, there's definitely like people who go wanna find new shit. So if you were just all producing the same stuff, you know what I mean? I think it kind of, they feel like they've hit a jackpot if they find, you know, 3 people or like however many people working together who are doing slightly different stuff, because it's like, oh, we can go to a gig and then we'll see a different range of stuff, rather than being like, okay, there's a guy with a guitar, there's another guy with a guitar. You know what I mean? And then they're like, oh fuck, pick our favourite, I guess. At least with that they can be like, oh sick, there's the DJ type guy, more electronic, and then you've got like grime stuff. It's like, works perfectly.
Because I think one thing that works really well for us is like, I remember drawing this out ages ago, I never shared it, but like, it's like all of us as artists are like, it's like a Venn diagram kind of thing, and like there's crossovers everywhere with everything. It's like even Solomon, like who's not with us now. Lucky died or some shit. He's no longer sorry.
Some stupid.
Anyway, so he's not here right now. Run the back, man. That's so sincere. That's something so intense as well, bro. Fucking hell. But no, but like even sorry. Even for Solomon, like he's like his main practice is photography, and like he's like the best, one of the best photographers I've ever seen, like, to put it that way. But he would just like randomly make music as well, and like the music he'll make is like almost like his photography.
Yeah.
If it was
he's got more music out than I have.
And then I'm just like, what the fuck? So then it's like in the Venn diagram, it's like all of us could be on completely different trajectories, and like I could be going into this industry, but it's like something will always draw us back, because like mine and Matt's music is very different, but we have songs together that sounds so like me, but so like you as well.
Exactly.
And then same with me and Tim, same with you guys, same with us. And I think that's the thing that I love about like this like environment. It's like, I mean, even Dan, for example, like he's just started like a heavy metal, like new metal kind of band with his friends, and like that's just sick that can spawn out of like nothing to do with us almost. Like he's just going and doing his own thing.
It's like collective conscience. It's like.
But that stuff works because you get like 2 different things. It's almost like in art, it's like 1 + 1 almost equals 3. You know what I mean? It, like when it comes back together, so it's almost better the more like variety you have, and then you're not limited to trying, because you can almost like make your literally make your own fucking style a little bit. You know what I mean? I feel like music, especially now, is going that direction. Where I feel like there's definitely like a counterculture of like very simplistic pop music, and then the fucking other side. Like if you look at who's like probably the big guys who are kind of doing stuff that's fucking out there, like all the fucking hyperpop stuff and like 100 gex and shit, like that stuff. Like try and define it, and then it's
and then there's so many like offshoots of that as well. Like I've been mixing this album for this guy Velis the Menace. Shout out Velis the Menace. He's sick, but he's more like digital punk, but that's like a offshoot of hyperpop, and it's like very internet music.
Hyper punk as well.
Yeah,
like,
literally.
Going on, like Hivers and them lot, and then like there's a guy in Northampton called Nailbreaker, and like I thought it was
same
like harsh
thing.
Noise, but it's like I saw him.
They did a show together, I think.
Oh, sick. Yeah, he's like fucking sick, but it's like. It was some magazine, and they like listed it as like digital hardcore, and I was like,
that's literally
that makes so much sense.
That's so hard.
Bro, it's so gnarly. Like go to like I've shot a few of his shows. He's like the nicest person ever on stage.
Just right, honestly,
running around, like,
I'll send you this
people.
guy's music, innit? Because it'll probably be really interesting. But yeah, it's just like I think it just shows it's just like the barriers are really just the walls are just broken. Like,
which is good to see, because it's like there's still guys who like hold the line, being like, no, I'm like this genre, I don't fuck with anything else. It's just like fine, but I think like just don't want to see where it goes a little bit. You know what I mean? Like it's interesting to see like like Remy, who was doing like more like rap stuff before, and now he switched to this like pop indie stuff, and then he was playing stuff the other day that was almost like more punk and like metally and stuff, and I was like, shit, this goes in, or like Anti and stuff have like every genre in the sun covered at this point, you know what I mean? But it all kind of still works together. Like it's never felt like they've changed their tune, even though it's like never the same genre.
That's the thing, and I'll even go back to that the gig that we saw each other at. When I first got there, like I had a conversation with Eli, so Vince Law. So when I got in, like he was the first person I saw, and like I remember speaking to him, and he was just like, like obviously we hadn't seen each other for ages, and he was just like, like just want to say like you're just sick, like he obviously we were just both waved as well, and we were just chatting, and he was just like, you're sick, and like you just kind of don't really care about genre and stuff, and I feel like that's kind of mutual with all of us.
Mutual respect.
Like, we all have our own way of doing things to like without constricting ourselves, which is
it's like
good
more
to have.
It's like fucking I don't know. It's like genres. It's like style. That's what it is.
Style.
That's what it's like.
It's good that them labels are going though. Like just being like, you do this one thing, and I think people just view artists as just like you can just do what you want because it's you as an artist, which is just so much fun.
As soon as someone says something about what you are or what like you're trying to project certain music, certain art, and they say something that can start boxing you in yourself as well. Like, I only make drum and bass now because people have said, this is like drum and bass.
Exactly.
And it's like, okay, like I've made a drum and bass song, but that's like that is like one tiny fragment of the whole picture.
It's that hard balance as an artist where you go along, you can do something really sick, but then it's like you don't want to be pigeonholed because it's like so you have to keep doing like different things. Like a weird one where I like fucking because I release like photo books and stuff, but every single one's like different stuff. I actually did really, but it's like this is the weirdest place to pull inspiration from, but fucking Street Fighter quote, like like this pro player, he was
there's
like
no rules though.
There's no rules, but he was like he's like super sick at the game, like best of all time, and he was like whenever he'd like go to tournaments and someone would be like, oh, you're super sick at like this technique or whatever, he'd just stop doing it. Like straight up, so like people when they got into matches they'd be like, oh, he's gonna do this, and they just wouldn't do that, and they'd be like waiting for it, like, which I mean I guess makes sense in like a sport thing, you know what I mean?
That's a very good like
you can apply that to the art world though, because it's just like getting away from the thing you once were type of thing, but obviously you don't have to like run away from it, but just being like, I can do this as well. Like
it's like you want to show growth, you know what I mean? Because obviously if you flip the record too much, then people will be like, this is what we do. There's like a balancing act of like slowly you just change over time so people can see that sort of arc.
Yeah, definitely.
But then like I feel that's what just makes us artists, you know what I mean? Because like
definitely,
especially like with like more my music I make, like with like the trap type of sound and stuff like that, it can get pigeonholed very quickly because like a lot of dons just rap to rap, you know what I mean? They're not really artists, you know what I mean? Because it's like, especially like, cause I always think back to it in the sense that like, especially like now with like a lot of like rage beats and like that type of sound coming up and stuff like that, and like filtering through to UK with like plug and B going up and stuff like that. It's like a lot of guys are getting onto that sound and doing the sound, but like they don't really get it for real because they never listen to what created this, you know what I mean? So like you think of rage beats and people are like, Carti, Trippie Redd and stuff like that, but realistically you can go back further, you can be like fucking Sophie, you know what I mean? Like Sophie producing Vince Staples with Big Fish Theory and stuff like that, and he even goes back further even with Kanye and Jesus, and then him like listening to like Massive Attack and shit like that, you know?
That comes from like industrial music and like people using synthesizers in the wrong way and stuff like this, you know what I'm saying? Like that's just an example. Like,
and again,
there's a canon to everything.
That's not even to say that the people that do that,
of course not.
Discredit them, but it's also just like as you said, that's what makes us artists. So.
I feel like it's that thing that we're like there are definitely guys who are just like flavour of the month, like you know what I mean? Like, they're just like you said, like trying to get us that end goal as quick as possible. I feel like that also comes from like a lot of people who are like just starting out. You know what I mean? Because it's like you need to like figure out what people are doing before, you know what I mean? It's sort of that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like,
Yeah,
when
well, I
it's
remember.
always
I
fucking
remember
people,
like listening to Andre 3000 did an interview with Rick Rubin.
Yeah.
Like I think it was like GQ or something. He was saying like for years he was like trying to like find his sound, and he was just mimicking other people. And you know, he's arguably one of the greatest rappers of all time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
But
it's
you
like
see that a lot with like fucking. There's like a writer, Hunter S. Thompson. He used to just like when he started, he'd just copy out fucking The Great Gatsby, like on his typewriter, like word for word. Like he must have copied it like 1,000 times just to get like what it's like to type stuff that's like good. You know what I mean? Before you even
get the feeling.
yeah, which is like
that's the thing.
Like,
it's interesting that you say that, because it's like I'm all about process, and I feel that's what kind of draws me a lot creatively to all of us. Like everyone in our group is like everyone has like a very different process. Like, and not like everyone has a process creatively, but I think it's like the intricacies of like people's process and like rituals and stuff as well. Because it's like for me, I'm sure like everyone can agree with this. Like if I show someone a beat, I'll spend 10-20 minutes talking before I even play the beat.
right.
Because I'm trying so hard to explain what I've done.
And whenever you play a beat, you'll solo one track and build it up.
But there's stuff like that I'm like, I'm glad I do that, because that's my thing. And it's not to be like, oh, this is my thing, but it's like, that's just what makes me
like when Ninth Wonder gets in the zone, he takes one shoe off. I read that somewhere.
Everyone's
like
crazy. But that's things I love, because I know with everyone there's like, you have your thing, you have your thing, but it's like, that's what
I think that's like a thing that no matter what fucking you're doing, if it's creative, like everyone does that fucking bit of weird shit. You know what I mean? Like,
little freaky shit when they're making stuff.
You had to
real freaky. That's good.
Because like even me, like I'm hella antisocial realistically, you know what I mean? So like even when I'm recording and shit, like I just have to be in a room by myself or just with someone who's like engineering for me, you know what I mean? I can't really have too many people about because I'm
just too much.
Whereas there's some people that thrive off that environment.
That just made me think of that video of you when us three were at Matt's house and we were recording the song. We didn't have any like isolation stuff, so Matt's just under a blanket like. I was just filming. I was like, who let the ghost in, bro? Stupid.
But even then, like, because I'm just like just in my room, just like lights off, just recording.
Just getting in the zone. 100. That's what I'm saying.
100.
It's funny when someone else points it out to you as well, when you're not aware of it. Because I started doing like when I'm like editing photos on Twitch streams, and I had people who would like watch them and they'd be like, "You swear so much." I was like, "Do I?" I was like, didn't even notice. It's just like you just get like, especially like gig photos, you see something sick and you're like, you get all excited over it.
That's like when I used to like rap and like record vocals, like I'd be making stuff. And like Drew would be there engineering me, and it's like every time I fucked up, I'd be like, fuck! And I just, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, I didn't even realise I'm doing that.
A quick side note, it's just funny relating to that, is that because I've been recording quite a few people now, like vocals, like it started because of Tim, because I'd recorded a lot. Like he'd whenever he'd fuck up, I just have so many like sound effects, just like little chops of him like, fuck! Shit! But then eventually I was like, everyone's gonna do this when they fuck up recordings. So I now have like a folder where it's just loads of random people making random ass noises, but eventually I'll make something with that.
Release it as
I just thought that's like
50 track album.
So good. We heard from like a music video we shot for Tragic. Like there was a scene where it was basically just like people having a sesh in a field. And like we just left the camera rolling, so I have like 5 hours of it. It's like a nature documentary, just all these kids getting drunk in a field. And some of the shit that goes on, it's so fucking funny.
So funny.
I'm gonna just edit it down.
Like a social experiment.
Literally.
That's how I watch. Like
it's like human nature study.
Literally, when we were in the studio next day, like editing the footage, but we were just like going through it, and me and Brian were just like watching it, like for like a good half an hour. And we were like, didn't get anything done. We're just watching this footage. We sit here and watch this all fucking day.
Just taking it in.
Yeah, for real, man.
Oh, bro.
Yeah, I feel like we should talk about our music individually. So I feel like
you start
Yeah,
then.
go on.
You
Oh,
start.
Go on,
Set the tone.
promote myself. So that's what. Alright, so we're all different, but I used to like rap and do vocals and stuff. Before that, I was a photographer. Before that, I was doing like paintings and stuff like this, and that influences how I make music. I take a lot of inspiration from like soundtracks and stuff. Always try to, and I approach electronic music with like a narrative, whereas like a lot of electronic music is constant. It's like or just a constant groove, a build and a drop. Whereas I try to make it a little bit more like. That's why I like want to get into like audio visual stuff and you know working with like VR and like even when we did the gallery with uni like at the start of the year is like having audio reactive imagery and stuff. So that's like I guess that just sums up where I'm at really. But you know we have like crossovers as well where we have similar ideas and even like our next gig like I want to get lighting people in. You know what I mean? I want to get people that, you know, people that can do crazy shit with light, turn all the lights off, have a smoke machine, crazy shit that can like multi-sensory experience. You know what I mean?
Attack on all levels.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
Now we're gonna stare each other down.
I need to go 60 Drew.
Nah, it's like I don't know. I guess I'm the trap guy in it. Like, but then like I don't know. My music's strange in a way because you can listen to it and like on a surface level way it's like trap and just rap and stuff like that. But like I feel like a lot of it is influenced from just music I listened to when I was younger. Because like even before I listened to rap, I was mostly listening to like hard rock and like stuff like that. You know what I mean? So like I'm gonna say Skillet, even though they're just washed and just some Christian band, you know what I mean? But like Skillet and like Breaking Benjamin and like Flyleaf and shit like that, you know what I mean? So like I feel like a lot of my vocals are influenced by that, you know what I mean? A lot of the melodies that I use are a lot more based upon that rather than like rap and stuff like that. Even just the beats that I pick are based upon a lot more of that type of thing. So I don't know, cause it's hard to speak about my own music in that sense as well, you know what I mean? Because like I can tell you what the influences are, but like I can't really tell you what it is, you know what I mean? Like in the sense of like what the product is itself.
You also can't tell someone how to listen to music as well.
Yeah, exactly. So like they're gonna interpret it the way that they want to interpret that stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100.
Yeah, that's true. To be fair, even to add to what you were saying then, I think like responding to what you were saying, like you don't know how to like explain it almost. It's like I think with Matt's music as well, like there's like two sides to it, as you're saying, like what you can take it for surface level, but even like the way he does his vocals and stuff, I think that's what is like compelling to me as well. Like we spoke about before, like Frank Ocean influences and stuff like that.
Like James Fong.
Like, all that kind of shit. Like, there's like often you hear like melodic kind of trap singing kind of things. It's like there's a lot of typical like cadences and flows and stuff, and I think that's what Matt kind of does well. Like he just has his own kind of path with it, where it's like there's so many influences where it's almost like this could be on a completely different beat and it would it would be like it would make complete sense. But kind of like that. But
so should we go? Should I?
Shit.
No, I'll go.
Okay.
Yeah, my turn. No, I think I'm very much the same as Matt, just in the same sense of like, there's so many different influences. I don't know what the end product is either. Like, and even going from what I used to make till now, like what I used to make kind of like trappy-ish stuff, and then a lot of like anime influence stuff as well. Like that's where I used to get a lot of like melodies and stuff from. The way I'd go about doing stuff, but then over like the past 2 years I started like getting more into instrumentation and stuff, so like just learning bass and stuff, and then just like learning guitar at the minute, and then playing keys and stuff. So I don't really know what my music's at, to be honest. I really don't know, because I made like an 80s kind of like synth track recently, and that's like I was like, oh yeah, sick, like I want to go down this route, and then I make something that's like, I don't know, I want to make something that's more like Motown-ish.
I feel like your music's very human.
Yeah, human,
Very like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's alive.
Mm.
and there's, like,
Yeah, that's very
dynamics and
true.
shit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So like, yeah, just making a lot of different stuff. But yeah, I never really know where I'm at, to be honest. So just in every sense.
But that's
yeah.
where it comes in with the group, like
Yeah,
Tim just
yeah.
enjoyed it and just like cut through it and kind
Yeah.
of like found that connecting
Yeah.
like line through the whole thing.
Yeah. But I think that's the fun of it now, is like I'm just kind of accepting that I don't really know where things will end up. Like I might just make one track that's for that, or like for a certain genre or whatever, or like it's completely different to what I'll make next. And I think before that used to kind of like screw in my head a lot, just being like, oh fuck, like what am I doing? Like I want to make this, and then I'd make something completely different and be like, oh, what is that one now? Where it's just like kind of just accept it, just like live in the present type shit. So
Definitely.
kind of just enjoying that
I
process.
find sometimes like creativity is almost like you just dig a hole and then afterwards you figure out how to get out of
Yeah,
it. You know,
totally,
like,
yeah,
It's a very
literally.
good analogy.
Because even lockdown,
No,
that was
it's-
fucking. That's probably the same with you. That was like hell. Because that was like going from like making music, and then you're only trapped with making music.
Yeah.
So then you're like, what the fuck am I doing? Type shit, and then
Just get sucked into the void.
yeah, like deeply sucked into it, and then. But then you, as you said, like you dig that hole so deep, you come out of it and you're like, oh shit, this is mad. Like,
but that's the scariest bit where you're stuck at the bottom and then someone's like, so what are you doing? You're like,
looking at it, bro, help me, I'm begging. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
And then all of a sudden, like, you come out of that hole and like you've got all this work. You're like,
Yeah.
oh fuck, like,
Oh shit, I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
touch
yeah,
it.
yeah.
I've got fucking, like 200 songs just sitting there. You know what I mean? I had no idea what I was doing when I made them.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
type shit.
all comes together. That's like the best part of it, and you're like, fuck, I can finally just like have it in a way where I don't have people being like, what the fuck are you
Yeah,
doing?
type shit. But I think even going back to like the group thing, I think that's for all of us. That's what keeps us like tied in on what we do, and just being allowed to just do what we do. Because I think if I was kind of just on my ones, then yeah, that type of stuff would eat into me, and I'd be like, oh, shit, what am I doing? Type of thing. But when you're surrounded by everyone, you just have that freedom to just kind of. Someone will just come to you like, oh, that's so mad. Like, it's mad that you got this idea. It's not just like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, that's not you.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I don't think we ever hear that.
Yeah.
That's it. It's just,
Plain is like,
yeah, it's bad. But yeah, that's me.
yeah, nice.
So
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, I don't know, like, I have a lot of paths in my head of just like random shit, just all the time. That's a pretty good explanation of my brain, but it's like, because I have ADHD as well, and it's like
Right. So it's always
constantly, like, it's only something I found out about last year,
yeah,
I think,
Right.
and I got diagnosed of it this year, and I think, like finding that out explained everything.
Right.
And like a lot of people that I told to were like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. But like now when I'm doing stuff, I'm like, music's always been a constant for me, like my whole life. Like I grew up around a lot of music. Like both my parents are very musical. Like my dad's a drummer, my mum's a singer. Like I grew up around like loads of different genres of music, like jazz, Indian, like classical Indian music, like rock, like just a bit of everything. I think like that's it, kind of ingrained in me to like just make music.
Yeah.
Almost. It's like I think that's the thing with ADHD as well. It's like find a solution for everything. It's like
Right. Yeah.
because there's so many channels of like things in your head. It's like, okay, here's a problem. How do I solve it? Like how do I figure out how to do it myself almost? And I think that's where my creativity like spawned from. It was like, okay, yeah, like I love this music, but I'd love to be able to make this music as well. It's not just like I don't just want to sit there and be like, yeah, cool, like I want to do it as well. So I think that's kind of where like my drive to make music came from. And then I mean, even just like path-wise, it was kind of like I did a lot of drawing when I was younger. Then I got into fashion quite a lot because I started my own brand, like Cobalt.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
The hats with like the little roses.
Yeah, literally, and like that, I've had loads of different like avenues, but I think music's been one constant because it's helped me through like hard times. It's like made good times better. Like it's always just been something that's helped me a lot. But yeah, I think that's just in relation to music. It's like if someone asks me what kind of music do you make, I'm just like, how the fuck am I supposed to
I feel like with your
answer?
music, like, 10, 20 years time, like, people will look back at it and be like, it was its own genre.
Yeah.
Like it will become something that people just stick a term to, whatever that is.
Mad.
To be honest, that's how I see it.
But
I'm his biggest fan.
Yeah. But yeah, I just feel like with me, I think like there's just because there's so much going on in my head, like 24/7. There just always has to be some sort of output. So I think it's like, one day I'm like sitting in my room, like Linkin Park will come on. That's like a band I grew up listening to, and I'll be like, fuck all of my music. I'm just gonna fucking join a rock band now. I'm going, like fuck this. Like, do you want to become some like next? But then that's the thing. Is like there's never like for a long time there was never like a comfortable place to sit and be like, I'm happy with where I'm at. But again, because of this like community we've created and stuff, it's like
it always gives like a framework to stop.
And it's
sirens.
And it's almost like these lot all know how fucking spontaneously scatty I can be. So everyone will just be like, yeah, shut the fuck up, just make some music. So I think that's good as well. I think that's like the same with everyone. Like everyone, like if like me and Rami talk a lot about like just how depressing being a creative can be sometimes, and like we get into those long conversations. But I think it's good because then I'll have a conversation with Rami about it, and then I'll have a conversation with Tim about it, and then I've got like 10 different perspectives from people I trust and like understand. So I think that's again.
It's that thing of stopping your mind wandering into like you get so in your head to the point where it's like you forget that the sky's blue a little bit. You know what I mean? It's like
that sounds so depressing, but it's so true.
It makes sense because you're like you've got enough things like that. You like everyone's like creatives. It's almost like you're putting stuff out, but you forget to look at what you've already done a little bit. Especially like when we're our age, it's like you're always thinking like, okay, I want to get this done, this done, this done, this done, and then you hit like a couple of days where it's like you don't get a bit closer, or you've got something else going on and shit like that, and then you're like, man, you sat there like, I would do it, and now I'm falling behind on time, it raps with you, and then it's like.
I think so much of it, like I started to find it easier to live with myself, like with the mind I have, and like being creative and having an idea and loving it, and then the next day hating it, and then like going around in circles. I think as soon as I started to remove my ego from it, it started becoming like I was like, all these things that I'm worried about, all these things that I'm thinking about, like it's all about this ego, which is like it's not like a super massive like ego where it's like, I'm the best guy in the room.
The
but it's
expectation, like, what you're wanting to do.
And like you're setting your standards rather than just appreciating that
what you've done.
I've made this song and that would not be there without me. Do you know what I'm saying?
That's
and that's the essence of music and art, in my opinion.
And I feel like I used to get that from drawing. Like as a kid, you'd fucking draw it. You'd be like, I've got the sickest idea to draw the sickest picture of a car, and then you draw it, and it's like, you're like,
it's like that typical side view where like the windows up there,
like the big steering wheel,
and the wheels are like that, like little archways.
That's why I've stopped referencing to like make music. You know what I mean? Because like I've realized as well, like when I try and reference and like create something similar to something else, it turns out shit. You know what I mean? But then like when you just scrap it and restart and just do what comes natural, you know what I mean? That's when it sounds good. You know what I mean?
And so much of that comes from being comfortable in yourself, and like what you have to offer.
That's
as well.
so true.
Do you know what I mean?
Because even relating to that, like I'd sit again what I was saying earlier about like maybe sitting there and like listening to like Linkin Park or something. Like I'll do that with everything. I like jazz is one genre that I listen to the most. Like jazz and subgenres of jazz. But it's like one genre that I relate to so much because it's so like scatty, but it's also so together at the same time. It's like, but when I listen to some jazz and shit, sometimes I'm like, okay, let me sit down. I'm gonna make a jazz song now. Start playing the keys. And I'm like, fuck. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. This isn't me.
Right.
I don't want to do this. But like, but I'm just like, fuck this shit. But then I'll sit down and like make a song where it's like genuinely me. Like everything in that song is me. It will have so much jazz influence in it without me even thinking about it.
Exactly.
And then I'm like, okay, well, maybe I just need to stop overthinking it.
Because you can box yourself in before you even press the
button. It's because that's how you perceive the music. You know what I mean? That's one thing as well. It's like people that have like just relating it to rap for just like easier like consumption in that sense. It's like it's like you look at Kendrick, you know what I mean, he's very technical, very poetry driven, very spoken word, you know what I mean, but that's just how he like perceives the music, you know what I mean, that's how he takes it in, so that's how it comes out. And then you look at Future, you know what I mean, a lot of his stuff can be a lot of like a lot more street rap and stuff like that, but then he can go into more like an R&B type of ballad, but that's just because of how he perceives the music, you know what I mean, so it's like you can't sound like that person because you don't perceive the music the same way that they do.
100%.
Because you're trying to like almost copycat
Exactly.
something that's had a process before has become what it is.
Yeah,
exactly.
And that's why I feel it's important to just never compare and never try and be like, I'm doing like I'm in this similar genre to this guy, so like he's doing this and I'm doing this, and it's like, oh, what's he doing that's different to me? It's like no one's doing what I'm doing because it's me doing it.
Exactly.
So, and there's no other me. Like everyone's different, you know what I'm saying?
I think it's like pulling from those like influences before, like you were saying about like painting and like photography before you started doing music, you know what I mean, how that like fed in, how you have that like visual and narrative thing to it.
It's like I'll like see it as well, kind of thing.
And no one can kind of like, I'm sure there's other artists applying painting to music, but not in the same way that it translates, you know what I mean?
Because there's so many variables. It's like the life you've led, you know, how you were brought up, like what you like aesthetically,
just your
what
brain
you like,
chemistry.
your brain chemistry, all this stuff.
That's something like people can't tap into because they don't really understand.
No, I fully relate to that as well. Just like what you were saying about the ego thing as well. Just like that's one thing that I've learned recently, especially, is just kind of just accepting shit for what it is. Like, when I make something, I'm just like, okay, I might have like planned something, like as you said, like listen to Linkin Park and shit. And you're like, oh yeah, let me go and make this.
It's almost like it should be that.
Yeah.
But then it's not going to be because you do things completely different.
And I knew, like, I was listening to like kind of like disco, dance, funk song earlier. I was like, I really want to make that. Like, I want to make a song that's just like that energy. And then I just made something completely different, where it's like it's kind of like rock type shit, like ambient rock, and I was just like, okay, I'm not even gonna think about that anymore.
It just doesn't matter.
Like it really doesn't matter. And it's so sick when you can just do that freely and not have to think about, like, oh, I should have done this, or like, I wanted to make something like that was so like dynamic and shit, or like had all these changes. It's just like just accept it.
Because I think it's really easy to fall into the trap of like you're making something, and then as you're making it, you're like, okay, where's this going? And that's like, okay, we've been like, we're all conditioned to like these people are releasing stuff, so I should release stuff. It's like you forget to let something just be, you know what I mean, just exist on its own. It's like that has its own life, you know what I mean?
Like seeing where it's going, especially when you're like, I shoot, like if you're making a song, you start with like the first bit, and then your mind's thinking about it as you go along. Like for me with photography, it's like, you know, or like why I like gigs, because you turn up and it could be fucking no one's here, and like what the fuck is going on, or you end up in the weirdest situation. It's like, what's happening next? Like, you know what I mean? It's feeding off of it, and it just kind of
that's like, the same with music though as well. Like when you sit down and you just like, you don't actually what the fuck is going on.
Like even at the performance, like when I performed, I found out afterwards because my laptop wasn't charging. So I'm lucky it didn't die mid-set, but it started like skipping and then I was just like I was giving like the sound engineer like a death stare, like what the fuck is going on? And I was like, dude, I changed the buffer size of this. I was like, what the fuck is going on? And then all of a sudden it just like I changed one setting, and then like a drum break came in, and everyone, you know, I feel like half the people thought it was part of it. Do you know what I'm saying? And it's like that only happens when like things happen in real time. It's like this isn't going anywhere because it's already there. Like, it's already in front of people. Like I can't sugarcoat it and package it up and like you would with a song or an album or a piece of art, like send it to people and shit. You know,
and even like relating to that, like the pressure on like small artists to be everything nowadays is actually mad as well, because like when I think about all the processes all of us have to do, like we're designing all of our own artwork, we're promoting everything ourselves, we're like mixing it, that's what I'm saying, like mixing, mastering videos, and like again with Tim's set, like the reason I loved it personally, because like again, like you'll criticize it to the day you die because it's your set, but at the same time, like I loved it because I was like, I can see how like bright red you are right now. You're like panicking
I'm
and shit.
seething.
But I was just
furious.
I was just like, in a weird way, that's kind of sick because it's just like,
that's it.
fuck it, like
it's what comes with it.
That is just like natural.
Because then I felt that I was channeling that for the rest of the set, and I felt it made the rest.
When you get your energy back,
you know what I mean, I practiced it in certain ways, and it's like just went off like that, and then after that I realised I was like shit, and I just make music a lot more like that now, very performative and like, you know what I mean, just like on the fly, like keep it looping, keep adding shit.
Yeah.
I think now people can just fucking listen to any song they want at the moment. So I think like live performances, like especially for me as a photographer, like the worst thing that can happen is I turn up a gig and everyone just plays their instruments perfectly and then gets off stage because it's like, how was that fun?
Yeah,
it's like the stuff I like, it's like someone needs to jump around or like something has to get broken. You know what I mean? Something has to go wrong, and that's when the photos go right. So it's kind of like being open to that.
It's like there's an old, well not old, like in the 70s, like German like industrial group. I think they were called the Eisters Neubauten or something like that. Part of like stock like housing kind of scene, and they for their performances, one of their performances, they literally, because they did like power electronics where they're all like they're using like drills and shit and like processing it, and they literally their whole show was they were in a stadium and the stadium was being like, I don't know, like it was going to be knocked down anyway, and they'd made a deal with the people, and their whole show was them like destroying the stadium, and by the end of it there was a massive hole in the ground because they were like, they had fucking like diggers and shit, and like and this was all part of like, you know what I mean, and that's like the essence of like what it is.
That reminds me of I like, you know when you just like you listen to something once like, and then like years later you remember it and then you look back up, but like so Japanese, when like the whole Japanoise thing was like in the 80s, but the fucking Hannah Trash gig where he drove the bulldozer through the back of the fucking venue, I'm like, that is the most insane fucking thing, and like I don't know whether you've ever been on his Spotify. Like, I listened to it once because there's like a song called like Live Shit 84 or something. It's like 11 minutes and it's just like screams and sound of glass smashing. You can hear people in the background being like, "Fuck!" Like, don't run away. It's just like pure chaos, and it's just like, I mean, for the like that's why I like Nail Breakers gigs as well, because I feel like there's some people will turn up and be like, "How is this music? Like, why is her?" But like for me, it's like, this is more fun because I can't do that thing as a photographer where if I just press the button on the beat, then I'm gonna get something, because that's when people perform. Like his stuff is so out there that I actually have to pay attention, and like keep up with him a little bit, and it's like anything could happen. He could hit someone.
You don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah. That's kind of like after we did our first gig, like I had loads of like ideas of what I wanted to do next, because I was like, not that I felt it didn't reflect my music properly, but I feel like it was just one side of me. Like that gig was just one side of like everything I do. It was just like, okay, this is me playing live music, like singing live, playing keys live with a live band.
Right.
Whereas like next time I want to do stuff with synths, next time after I want to do stuff with like sequencers and like maybe not even vocals, like fucking just noise and shit, but like whatever I'm feeling at the time. But then it had me thinking about like, I don't know, like having like set design on stage and stuff like that, like stuff to like properly control the mood and like make people be like, oh, I've never been to a gig like that, even if it's a small gig in a small venue. It's kind of like just making the most of the space.
Like, I relate to that because like with my set as well, because that was the first time I ever like performed live, like fully, you know what I mean? So like it was different in the sense that it's very closed off in the sense of like what I would want in the future. You know what I mean? But then at the same time, it's that learning process because it was very closed off, and like it was, like look at the video and stuff like that, I'm still just like walking around and rapping, but then like there's still that everyone's still vibing and stuff like that, but still want to like do that crowd control, like get people really going into it, because like that's one of my criticisms as well, like the underground, especially with rap as well. Like motherfuckers can't perform for shit. Like, they can't perform for shit. They'll just get on stage, say about 2 bars with 10 man fucking weed rollers just behind them. You know what I mean? And that's like that shit pisses me off. You know what I mean? Because like I want to get on stage and like direct. You know what I mean? Really be with the crowd and just like performing. You know what I mean? Not just walking around and just saying bars, you know what I mean? And even then they're not even saying they were throwing lyrics, you know what I mean?
And you're letting what it is, like who you're performing to in the environment, also dictate
Yeah.
what's happening rather
It's
than
like reactionary.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's why I think like our first gig was sick as well. Like in contrast to what you're saying a bit, it's like we all had like little slots to like show off like what we were about almost, but everyone kind of it was in the same space. But I think also the thing that helped was like the lighting was sick. Like the atmosphere was really cool, like because it's like
good sound system.
Dim, the sound system was good. Like
where was it?
George Tavern in Shadwell, like White House, Whitechapel kind of area.
It was very intimate. You know? So like because of that, it's like things didn't go wrong. You know what I mean? But like from our perspective, things might have went wrong. You know what I mean? But because of how intimate it was and everyone just catching the vibe and stuff like that, it was just very like just human, you know.
It almost felt like a motive.
Yeah.
We just like
had fun.
Like you know, you go to a motive and you just hop on the decks. You know, I don't even have my USB. Let me just see what this guy is doing. Do you know what I mean? And then like, very natural. Yeah, and
I think going forward in the future for all of us, like having these gigs where I want people to be like, well, I feel like people did from the first one, but like people came thinking they were gonna get something, like especially for me, like my music that's out is like not a reflection at all of what I'm actually making now, or like where I'm at in terms of skill wise now, or like even just confidence. And I could like even say the same for everyone else, but like everyone's got like different like presentation in person and online, because that's the thing. I feel like we're not, as a group, we're not very like, it's not that we don't care about online, because all of it, like individually, all of us care less or more, like it's not even that matters, but I think that's also the good thing about our, again, like our community that we have, is that everyone has a very like, just like human kind of feel. It doesn't feel like we're like celebrities or like trying to get to that.
We're not influencers.
Because
like I hate the term influencers, because it's like if you're an influencer, that means you influence, you know what I mean? But at the same time, it's like your job is not to influence, you know what I mean? It's just influence is a byproduct. So it's like what I feel as if that helps us out in that sense is that we're just doing what we do. And then if you're influenced by it, if you're inspired by it, then that's good. If you're not, then so be it, you know what I mean? Like we're more trying to create a culture more than anything else, you know what I mean?
Couldn't agree more.
I think that human thing goes back to like what we're saying about people going on YouTube and be like, wish this was in my area, you know what I mean? Like we grew up in a very like, probably like when we were like fucking 12, 13, that was like the peak of people just living on the internet, you know what I mean? And then I think now we're older, it's like we're bored of, like I feel like everyone's bored of it already. It's only been about since the 90s, but people are like, it's okay, it's like a tool to use, but it's like shit's way better in person, you know. It's like looking back around, especially after COVID as well. We didn't see anyone, and people are like, let's actually do something.
When I went out for the first time after COVID, I thought I was glitching like through how the fuck I was like, I'm gonna talk to someone, then you speak to someone, it's like
you just respawn back in.
Is there like a lag or something? I don't know, my brain's just not working. Yeah, I think that's a good thing. I think it's like brought especially for people that didn't have that confidence, it's given people confidence as well, because it's been like like everyone kind of in that time. I think that's a good thing for our generation that's going to carry, is like everyone had a chance.
The realization where it's like no matter how like the simple act of going outside could just be fucking taken away, you know what I mean? I think having that edge of being like fuck is, you know, because I feel like growing up it felt like nothing happened, like just to the point where it's like we live in this like fucking simulation, like, you know what I mean? And then COVID, it was like, oh shit, it's real, so it's like make the most of it, and then it's like take that fucking risk or whatever it is, you know.
But that's why I think like platforms like TikTok are dangerous in that sense, you know what I mean? Because it's like it was in lockdown, it was a great thing, it was a great tool. A lot of people blew up and started amazing careers, you know what I mean? But then now that we're out of that, you know what I mean, it's nearly set a new standard, and then it's becoming dangerous in that sense that because it's setting a new standard, it's almost like in some ways without that you can't make it, you know? And that's how.
That's what I mean. It's like the standard becomes more and more unrealistic
Yeah,
as well.
because
It's
I like the idea of the metaverse as a tool, innit? But then I don't like as a tool. It's cool, innit? But I don't like it to say in replacing a way of life, because it removes that tangibility. And even though music is sonics and you can't touch it, there's still that tangibility.
it's still physical.
exactly.
Vibration.
It's very much like bringing that cave world like outside, isn't it?
Yeah,
because like that's like what you said, innit? Like, being on TikTok in lockdown is calm, but then people still trying to do that publicly, and like that's their life, like just having a phone.
And like I swear in London the other day, there was just the street was locked off as bare, like
TikTok and
and robbing shit.
But that's just a
it was
thing.
like
But
some
then,
organised link up.
but then TikTok, like again, that would just be a thing where it's like that just continues, or like that's a conversation, and then that conversation never ends because that's people's lives in a sense, like, which I think is sick, especially after lockdown. It's just, and I think it was such a crucial point for us being at the age we're at as well. Was like when we came out of lockdown, we actually, as you said, like you realise what life is like. You go outside and be like, oh shit, like there's a tree. That's like you go outside now, you're like, oh fuck, like life is meant to be lived, and just do shit for the feeling of it rather than doing it for someone else.
Exactly.
At the same time, I feel like it allowed us, I feel like individually as well, and just everyone, like, but us specifically, like in the terms of like what we're doing, like I feel like we've laid a really strong foundation, and like really strong groundwork. We all know each other's strengths, what each other like and stuff like this, and it's like, you know, I feel like we're becoming ready to live it without forcing this shit. You know what I'm saying? Like we are already living this. And it's like, you know, I feel like it can become something really special when you know there's healing in that. You know what I'm saying?
100%. And I think out of a lot of things that I see as well, especially being in London as well, this is another thing. It's like I'll see groups of people and like I don't know, you know when you can kind of tell like people have just come together just because they're like both influencers or like this person like does this.
It's a situation.
Yeah, exactly. But I feel like above all with our group, we're all just friends, aren't it?
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing that I appreciate a lot. And I'm again like I could probably say for everyone, but it's like if we just took away all the other shit. I mean, obviously you can't just take it away. That's quite a strong hypothetical. But the fact that
like the bottom line, is the
bottom line
hang out and shit.
Exactly, and it's not just always about, because that's one thing that just gets tiring sometimes. Is like I don't want to just go out to be like, yo, let's link up, let's create something together. I don't always want to do that, and I feel like a lot of creative people would agree with that. I'm sure.
But some of the best stuff comes from not doing. You know what I mean? Like you just go out and you get shit.
Happened the other day, innit? When we did the performance.
Yeah,
thing, like, just in his room, like we were gonna go out to like meet Solly or something, and then we ended up spending an hour just playing around with this like new MIDI that I got like 3 months ago that I haven't brought out yet, and he was just like playing around. I was like, oh, that's cool. Turned up the tempo, and before long, like we recorded an hour long like live performance set. It was very just like we didn't
like
plan it, it just happened.
I think as well, going back to what you were saying about like people kind of always like other creators linking up because they're like creatives and they both have to like get along and shit. I think I don't know if it's the same for you guys, but I very much just view you as my friends. I kind of forget that you some soft shit like forget being artists. But no, I actually just forget like we're artists, and like I'd never look at you guys and think like, oh look, I can't speak to you because or like
creatives.
Like my only interaction with you must be because we all make music. It's just like shit.
I feel like sometimes it's kind of like the opposite. It's like
that's what I'm saying.
You know what I'm saying? Just forget like. Just get
it's like no ideas off limits.
I
feel like having a group of people around you that accept that is probably more important than anything else. And it doesn't have to be a creative idea. You know what I'm saying?
Because even like thinking about like the fact that you're interviewing us now, and like me and Romy have known you for time. And like Tim's known you for time. Like,
we realised we went to school.
Literally. Even that, I just think it's great because it's like now. Okay, shit, I haven't seen you in time. Like, how are you doing? Before, it's not like, are you ready for your interview now? It's just cool. It's just like, oh, okay. Even if like we never got to know each other that much in the past, it's like, oh, well, we've got these things in common. Like, we have these friends that we know. You know these people. So I think again, like that's something that kind of links.
Do you know
into
what's
that.
like funny? Like you were saying about like the whole thing is like your friends before, and it's like it doesn't matter. Like it goes back to like when you go skate. Because if you wanted to get good at skate, the worst thing you can do is invite all your mates. And go to MK. You know what I mean? You just go on your own and like train. But it was like you're still just like hanging out, but you still get tricks and stuff.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
that's basically what I do when I go skate anyway. Just go chill and watch everyone skate, smoke weed, do fuck all else.
But even after the back of lockdown, like I think a big thing that's come about is just like natural being in it, like, and even the conversation we were having earlier about artists kind of just doing whatever they want type thing. I feel like that derives a lot from just looking at COVID and just being like, what energy am I putting out, and like how big energy is as well, like
fully.
Just differently, like just even how you interact with people,
and how much your energy influences other people.
Like,
it's hard to gauge that when you're on your own all the time.
Yeah, totally.
I can't ever gauge my own energy just by looking in the mirror at myself.
Yeah, because
I have my own way of thinking about myself.
Totally.
Everyone has the critic in their head. You know what I'm saying?
I also realised like in COVID, like when you were saying like it's like how you think about shit as well, because you can get to that point where you're like, fuck, I've got to go do something, like there's something you like that like whatever, but you're like I've got to go do this, but then you kind of realise like, oh no, you get to go do this. You know, you're not you're not being like locked in a room and told don't go outside. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's sort of then that's where it comes from, that whole natural thing, because it's like, well, let's see what fucking happens. You know what I mean? Rather than being like, oh, it's gonna be this thing, cool, whatever.
Because even for me, like COVID, like that first lockdown, that was literally like booky, because I was around my girlfriend's. I was at her uni account, and then we were actually gonna go to visit her parents just for like the week or whatever. And then literally the night we got there, my dad called me and he was just like, "Do you want me to come pick you up from uni?" innit? And I'm like, "Why?" And it's just like, because they're gonna be a lockdown, and it's like, what the fuck? Like, what are you talking about, innit? So like, and then I was like, "Nah, it's calm, innit?" So then for the next 3 months, I'm just stuck there with her parents, her and just like her dog and everything like that, and it's like it's a different experience. And then at that point in time, I'd recorded, but like not fully gotten into it and stuff like that on my own, and knew what I was doing. You know what I mean? So like, I get my equipment and like I'm learning all of that by myself in that sense, and like learning to mix and all of that type of stuff through that period. You know what I mean? So it's like it's that sense of you're locked away and you're doing it by yourself. But then it wasn't until after the fact where lockdown's out and we linked up in Northampton that summer and stuff like that, and like can show everyone what's going on, and then you can actually understand what you just made.
I was the same. Like I was locked in halls for like a good 3-4 months because I couldn't go back home, and that's like before that I was studying graphic design, and then I switched to studying like sound arts with sound design, and then that's when I started releasing music as well, and I was like, you know what I mean, like that was a very important period, but there was no one really to show it other than like, you know, I'd send it to people and stuff. We had like a collective like Google Drive folder that we just like put stuff in. But then it's only when you came out of it, it's like, oh shit, like 3 months ago I was like, didn't even realise my shit was clipping. You know what I mean?
So crazy. It took me years to realise that.
Still don't, right?
Yeah, like even that track I made, fucking Black Boy Gorgeous.
Like
for me, when I first made that, I'm like, this is fucking hard, mate. And then when I listen back to it, I'm like, this is the muddiest shit.
Bro. That's the me and Tim were talking about this the other day. We were like, I feel like sometimes it just doesn't actually matter with stuff like that, because even that tune, it's like, at the time I didn't think that. I mean, I've barely listened to it back recently. When I've like trained my ears more or whatever, but I think a lot of that kind of stuff is like, it almost doesn't matter, because it's like the vibe that you're producing, the sound, and like just the way things work. And I think that you don't need to be like polished to do that, because even like some of my favourite tunes that I've made are like years old. Like Time, for example, is one of my favourite tunes I've made, and it's like, the mix is so shit. Like, it's so bad, but it's also not at the same time.
A mix is so subjective. Like, I've had people recently talk to me about like, oh, like mixes aren't that professional and stuff. And I'm like, but my sound is that. So
Yeah.
am I going to take away from that
Exactly.
in order
exactly.
to get it sounding industry standards?
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
thing.
I'm removing so much of the personality that got
Yeah.
it to that
Yeah.
point. You know what I'm saying?
It's like that sort of like raw element.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
that thing, like over time, like
Yeah.
everyone's looking back at like anything that's wrong. Basically, is what we find fond.
That's
of,
always
like
the
fucking
change.
old TVs and
Yeah.
fucking film
Literally.
cameras. Like
Yeah.
half of it looks shit. Like how do people watch Friends in the 90s? You
Yeah.
can't see
Yeah.
it, like,
Yeah.
you see it, but everyone's like now it's all HD and 4K. Everyone's
Yeah.
like that's not cool. Like skateboarding, everyone wanted VXs. you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
fully.
like they're not good
Fully.
by any means, but
Yeah.
people still use them to
That's
this
Yeah.
it's
day.
just because of what
It's
it's
like-
just a more.
Yeah.
It's more the feeling. No, that's why. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
there's like emotion attached to everything. It's like you can go back and listen to a song and it could be like the worst sounding mix. It could be so muddy you can pick it apart all you want, but again, it's how it makes you feel and like what you relate to it as well. Because even like my first EP that I released, The Glow, there's like a lot of me would just be like, oh, this is just shit. Like I could make better stuff. Like I have made better stuff, but I go back and listen to it with such like good feeling every time I listen to it because it's like.
Yeah, nah, yeah, because that project Jake said it, because this long I just want to release anything, yeah. And we fully just said to him, we're just like, listen, we're gonna come to your house and we're not gonna leave until it's done. And we were down, we just locked in for 2 days at his house and then finished this thing.
Yeah, and then
Yeah,
it eventually just became like Matt's on it, Tim's on it, Solomon's on it, and even that's mad because like Solomon doesn't record vocals,
Yeah.
but he's just on the hook of one of the songs. And I'm just like, even that, it's kind of like, you know, when you have like Hallmark projects,
Yeah.
it's like Odd Future has that Odd Future take and like ASAP. But that for me just felt like one of them moments where it was just randomly like, this had no intention of being that, but it just became it, and like.
It was
There's so
time
much,
capsule
yeah.
of
There's so much
that
attached
period.
to it, like just memories, feelings, like everything. Like.
I think that's definitely the way things are moving forward, though, especially like just making shit, and then if it needs to be like polished to a certain degree afterwards, do it. But like as you said, like don't strip it to just it not having anything in it. And, like, no one wants to hear
like
the
any
same
of us
shit.
at a stage where it really even matters. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter in general,
It
but
shouldn't.
like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Well, and as well,
we're
people
fucking early
are going to
20s
be
and
more
shit.
annoyed at like you not dropping shit rather than how the mix sounds.
Sounds
Yeah.
Which I forget about a lot.
Speak
Like,
from your
99% of
experience,
people are not even gonna fucking
Yeah,
that's the
listen.
thing, yeah.
Yeah.
But then when you think about it, like think about all the cult like heroes and classics.
yeah.
Their music is not polished at all.
Yeah,
It's
look
like King Cruel,
Dean
Yeah.
Blunt.
Dean Blunt,
Yeah.
Like,
fucking I
100%.
stumble myself there. I don't really think anymore.
Like,
But like just the
Aphex Twin.
Yeah, Aphex
Yeah.
Twin. You think about all these like they're people that aren't just like looked up to. They're like they're like respected as like
Yeah,
best, like
yeah.
pioneers. And that's the thing. There's a reason they are. It's because they don't just follow what everyone
They
else
just
does.
channel it.
It's
They
not just
channel
always
it.
like, oh, here's how to make your mix industry standard, or like here's how to master to this exact level. But it's the same with photography, like same with art. It's the
just
same
like
with
risking
everything.
it. And
That's
being
the
like,
thing.
well,
And that's the
see
thing.
what
Like
people think.
even to talk about like Solomon's photography, like he has a certain way of doing stuff. Like we did a shoot with him recently where we actually shot in this like exact like place.
You're literally sitting like
Yeah,
this.
and then he'd like made the room look like a waiting room, and like he said to everyone before we started, like I know you might be used to doing like shoots for like hours, but if I'm happy with it in like 10 minutes, I'm done. And he literally took like 15 photos and he was like, yeah, cool. So I was like, I just love
And all the
that.
models
That's
that
like,
turned up were like, oh, okay.
and we're just like, what do we do now? But yeah, I was just like, that's sick because it's just that's your way of doing it, and like that works, and he like his photos are fucking amazing, isn't it? So
that's probably a thing with time as well. It's like go back to what you said.
because he'll
about
have
the,
found that out
paint.
from other
Yeah,
artists.
you
Oh,
hope
yeah.
that
You know what I mean?
that's a good shot.
Of like other shoots where he's stuck around for an hour
Yeah.
just because it's like, well, it's meant to take time, and then
Yeah,
he realizes like everything after that certain point is like,
What does it
you
matter?
know what I mean? It's like now I'm just,
and then you realise that you're just like instinctively just going against
Yeah.
what you feel is good, just
Yeah.
because you feel like it should be done a certain way.
Definitely.
That's bullshit.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Fully. But it's just even that goes to show, because I think that's for all of us now. Is like you can make something in 20 minutes, and like you probably won't deep it, but that's from years of just knowing shit.
Yeah.
And solely just taking those photos, like 15 shots, and being like, calm.
Yeah.
He's obviously because he can already see it, rather than it just being like laziness. Do you get me? It's actually like, I can see it and I've done it. Okay,
and that's a common like misconception of creatives as well. It's like people just look at people that call themselves creative and like, oh, you're just lazy, like you just don't, you just want the easy route of life, like. But it's not that at all. Like I don't think people really understand like how deep being creative is, because it's like you can be working and then you finish work and your brain doesn't finish working. Like your brain doesn't finish working until you go to sleep, and then you wake up.
When you go to sleep, it's chasing you. Man.
You know what I mean? But like you're just going, like you're just constantly going, and like no one. That's the problem as well, because it's not like embraced by like establishments, government, whatever. Like you're never taught how to deal with that, and like that's why again, like I'm sure you probably know as well, like so many creatives have like mental health problems and shit as well, because no one knows how to deal with it. Anyway,
I honestly don't know how you could be a creative and not.
It's almost like guideline. When you become an artist, you have to.
To me, there is truth in that. You know what I mean? Because it's like when you think about like the general population and consumers in that sense. Because to me, there is creators and there is consumers and there are curators.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There is those 100%. 3 categories. A consumer can be a curator. A curator can be a consumer. A curator can be an artist. An artist can be a curator. But a consumer can't be an artist.
Oh wait, did the camera go up?
Oh shit, is that like a enforced timeout?
Maybe.
It's basically like, shut the fuck up.
I mean, I'm assuming it's dead.
Do you want me to check?
I mean, the audio's still going, so finish the point. Make it a good one, because we're ending on this one.
So like, so like, with that sense in that like, an artist can be a curator can be an artist, a consumer can be a curator, and a curator can be a consumer, but a consumer can't be an artist. So for me, in that sense, there's always that disconnect, because we always try so hard in that sense. But because there's that disconnect, sometimes it's like, what's the point? Because it's like they're not gonna understand.
They're never gonna see it how you.
They're not gonna understand or perceive it in a way that is beyond just consuming. You know what I mean? And that's fine. You know what I mean? At the same time, you're the motherfuckers that paying the bills. You know what I mean? You're paying our bills. So if you like it, like it. You know what I mean? But then at the same time, as an artist, you just have to accept the fact that you can stop. Because you going any further won't make any difference.
I totally agree with that.
You just have to just stop, just accept it, and just put it out.
Just keep going.
Touch it.
Endless.
I think we've inspired the masses with this episode.
Hopefully.
164.
The biggest worst on even.
Oh shit. Man, that was good. I feel like I learned shit about everyone right now that we all know, but I think it's just good to like put it out there and just say it amongst one another. So
another good conversation.
Love that.
Any outros?
Nah.